one of the things that is really important in recruitment business is about employer branding. So they always have a hard time to really promote it themselves. They have a hard time to really promote, especially their value. What is the vision they're providing? I think this is kind of the main issue behind all this.
Welcome to Connected Sidelines, coming to you from the heart of Taipei, a show in which we get personal on issues that connect us all in Taiwan and around the world. My name is Tomasz Koper. Now, Taiwan is often seen as a technology and precision manufacturing powerhouse, and for good reasons. The semiconductor industry in particular, the crown jewel of the country's economy, has long been the envy of the world. But as other players start to throw their hats in the ring, competition heats up for one of the most crucial resources in the chip industry, talent. That's why we have with us in the studio Zeno Fu, a senior recruitment consultant focusing on tech talent, to discuss a problem commonly known as brain drain. Now, Zeno, let me ask you straight up, does Taiwan have a brain drain problem, particularly in the tech industry?
Yeah, I would say yes. I witnessed this trend in the recent years.
So who is leaving and where are they going?
So if you want to leave, of course, you will need to have the ability to leave. So the first trends of the talent who want to leave is, of course, from the technical sector, whether it be from semiconductor or like software engineer. They are the guys who are trying to find a life elsewhere.
Engineers who are working in the semiconductor industry and software engineers, slightly different jobs there.
Yeah, slightly different.
So what are the main sort of directions for their exodus, so to speak?
Back in the 90s and back in the early 2000s, Taiwanese people are known to lead a new life in the United States. But like nowadays, they have so many different opportunities in elsewhere. For example, like Singapore, Japan, and then some of the European countries. These are the directions, the destination for the younger generation to move to.
So what is attracting them and what is making them make that decision to leave? Especially when you consider how, fantastically good the compensation is at the semiconductor industry giants here in Taiwan, the likes of TSMC.
Yeah.
There are literally news stories about how much they get in bonuses every year and how much their base salaries are. So what are the factors that are actually making people go like, okay, forget TSMC, I want to go to Japan or I want to go to Singapore?
The case will be different for like people in their 40s, people in their 50s, and for the younger generation who is still in their 20s and 30s. So, for example, for older generation, if they already have a family, they already have spouse and kids, they want to seek a more stable life. Maybe they will consider the current ongoing geopolitical situation. So for these people, the main reason for them to move out of the country is basically because they want a new identity in a place that they consider safer than Taiwan. So for example, for those people, the main reason for them to go out of Taiwan is because they want a new place to lead a new life.
Well, I remember when I first came to Taiwan 15 years ago, there was a lot of talk about young professionals moving to China, attracted by much higher wages. Well, in light of what you said about safety and finding a new identity, maybe that's no longer as much of an appealing destination as it used to be. But is China still paying more trying to attract talent in the semiconductor industry specifically, where they need to develop their own capabilities?
Yes, I think still nowadays, because they want to recruit engineers who are capable of doing much more advanced technologies. So they still recruiting with a much higher compensation.
Right.
But the thing is that I don't think China really has the benefits and the perks all those semiconductor engineers are looking for. So just like I mentioned, I think most of the engineers in semiconductor industry, they looking for a more stable and more healthy life. And I don't think that is something that China and the Chinese company got to offer.
You mentioned that this was a trend that you were seeing.
Yeah.
Is this a growing trend? How has it been shaping up in the last, let's say 3 years?
I think the situation will be a little bit different from engineer in semiconductor industry. For all those employees, they need to go to work on site in the most of the cases. So I think for those people, the trend is basically because all those, like I mentioned, geopolitical situations. But on the other hand, for all those like software engineer and all those people who work in the software industry, in the recent year, the reason why they looking for job elsewhere outside of Taiwan is because that remote working is already be a very huge trend. So even if they don't really physically leave Taiwan, it like expose it to lots of different opportunities from other countries. And on the other hand, if they really want to move outside of Taiwan, nowadays they have more information, more intels about how they got to leave Taiwan to work in another place, to live in another place. I guess that is the reason behind all these trends.
One common complaint that I hear from many of my Taiwanese peers is working conditions here.
Okay.
How has those been changing, and how are they now sort of compared to what engineers, both software engineers working remotely from here and electrical engineers going abroad to work? How are they sort of finding working conditions, let's say in Singapore and Japan, compared to Taiwan?
Work condition in semiconductor industry is still sometimes is still very harsh. So they need to work extra hours, and they need to sometimes they need to be on call. If anything happen, they need to go back to the factory. At the same time, if they move to like Singapore, they have stricter regulation on working condition. So maybe those kinds of harsh condition will not exist in Singapore, for example. And on the other hand, I think software industry, people who work in the software industry, doesn't really work under that kind of harsh condition. But on the other hand, they also have concern about the working culture. So I think most of the time, why they want to move elsewhere, why they want to work in a company from other country, I think it's because of the work culture. Because in Taiwan, people still working in a more hierarchical organization. On the other hand, I think for a startup in, for example, like Singapore, Hong Kong, or Japan, they really promote a more flattened organizational relationship.
Is this having an effect here for Taiwanese companies? Are they looking at sort of the number of people who are leaving both their companies and just the country in general? Is that making them rethink their working conditions? So basically, are working conditions improving for the people who are still here because so many are leaving?
Actually, yes. They have already noticed that this is an ongoing trend. But I think the progress is very slow compared to what I saw on maybe my parents or maybe from older generation. I will say that working condition is actually getting better and better, but still it's a slow progress. And sometimes, for example, like maybe the bigger enterprise, they will now promote a more flexible working hours. They want to look up to all those emerging startups. But the reality is that people still need to work extra hours, maybe off the record, because they need to finish the workload they are assigned to. So I think that the problem is that enterprises are changing their policy on working condition, but like the reality of working condition is not really moving that fast.
So you have to convince the managers as well as the bosses.
Yes.
Well, unsurprisingly, that is probably going to take a bit of time.
I must say that sometimes even the employees, they will have the anxiety about I haven't finished my job, so I shouldn't leave my position for so long.
Do you think Taiwanese people have a healthy relationship to work just in general?
Healthy.
Well, there's this famous, there's this Instagram comedian, for example, who does videos about the differences between a European boss and an American boss, where a European boss is like, oh, the weather's nice. Let's all take 2 weeks off and just go frolic on the meadows,
Yeah, I think I saw that one before.
Whereas the American boss is like, well, John died, but he hasn't finished his quota. So, we're going to have his children in to, finish his tasks, or, ridiculous kind of exaggerated points like that. That kind of shows at least the popular perception of how attitudes towards work differ between, North America and Europe. Do you feel that similar kind of comedy could be made about the working culture here in Taiwan?
So just yesterday, I just discussed this with one of my friends, and I mentioned that there is a common phenomena in Taiwan, especially in the office. We call it 装忙. You need to pretend you are busy.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you will be assigned more duties. You will need to do some extra work, something like that. So I think basically among Taiwanese, especially in the office, we have this kind of sentiment that if you are not doing something, it means that you are lazy. And if you are lazy, you will then be punished. So I think this kind of sentiment is going on both sides, from the managers and also from the employees. They'll take it that way. So I guess that is the reason behind this kind of.
Well, you mentioned startups and how they have a much flatter organizational structure. They probably also need kind of a different pool of talent for what they're trying to do. But that talent, at least from what I know about the startup ecosystem, needs to be a lot more flexible and is a lot more important because the organizations are smaller. So you really need the right people doing the right kind of jobs. Is that a challenge for startup founders in Taiwan to find those right people for those jobs that they need them for?
The first major issue for all those founders, I guess this applied to startups all around the globe. So of course, because they don't have a whole human resource department, so the thing is that they will have the hardship of promoting themselves.
Right.
One of the things that is really important in recruitment business is about employer branding. So they always have a hard time to really promote themselves. They have a hard time to really promote, especially their value. What is the vision they're providing? I think this is kind of the main issue behind all this. I actually noticed one thing because in the past few years, I collaborated with lots of different startups. Comparing to, let's say, startup from Singapore, startup, or maybe startup from the States, I think that the difference is, this is kind of awkward, but like a Taiwanese founder, usually they don't really have the charisma to really attract the right talent for them. And also they don't really have the charisma to find themselves a substantial fund. So they were also facing some hard time when they are doing fundraising. I saw a lot of founders who have a really good idea. They have a really good solution to a very specific, very particular problem, but they don't really have the charisma to really promote, to really marketing their ideas. So I guess this is like the one of the biggest concern behind.
Well,
the situation.
I guess in a way it's also a feedback loop, right? Because the Taiwanese investors like VCs are also not very keen on investing in early stage startups.
Yeah, that
like
is
round
also true.
A and B, right?
Yeah,
it's usually Series C, D, like close to exit.
Yes.
When VCs here are willing to put some money behind an idea. If it were up to you, as a recruitment specialist, how would you improve that situation? Do they just need more training on charisma, or does it go deeper? Like, do you think that this is just sort of, I don't know, ingrained in early education? Like, why is there such a stark difference between Taiwanese founders, who are otherwise smart, capable, able to solve problems that they see in the environments around them, and, American founders or European founders?
Nowadays, there are lots of accelerators. They are trying to solve these kinds of problems. They are helping the founders to promote their brand, to help them to find what is the core value of their brand. But on the other hand, I guess this is similar in most of the North Asian countries. I think all those engineers, especially engineers, they have this kinds of craftsmanship kind of thinking. They will dedicate most of their attention on the advancement of the technologies. They rarely see the communication. They rarely see the public relations of their company as a major objective. They rarely see that as a priority on their objectives. So I guess this is one of the major problems. They really don't take this kinds of things seriously, even though all those accelerators told them this is like one of the biggest problem you guys need to solve, but they rarely take the advice.
Well, let's get back to brain drain in more general terms. I know you focus on the tech industries, semiconductors, software, and so on. But what do you hear from your colleagues when it comes to talent movement across borders in other industries? Just to give you an example, where I'm from, in Poland, we used to have a problem with registered nurses and even to a lesser degree, doctors leaving the country at some point to go work for higher salaries elsewhere in the European Union. And that problem persisted for decades. To a certain extent, it's still a thing now, although with improved working conditions and salaries, it's not as intense as it used to be. Is that an issue for the Taiwanese health and health management industry?
Yes, I think, of course, especially when you mention registered nurse, I think we have the exact same situation going on in Taiwan. So some of my friends, they are actually registered nurse. So they mentioned that now in Taiwan, there even is a whole seminar tell you how you can move to the state to work as a registered nurse. What is the requirements you need to fulfill, something like that. So I would say that this is also an ongoing trend for all those registered nurses or all those people in the healthcare industry. They want to move to other country. And the main reason behind this is again, of course, because of the working condition. As you can see, in recent years, there are lots of news, especially during the pandemic. There's lots of news going on about the very harsh working condition, about all those caretakers. Maybe they need to work extra hours. Maybe there's a serious shortage of the manpower, so they need to take a second shift. Something like that is still going on in Taiwan, and I think it's a very serious condition here.
Where are the market forces, so to speak, that should, at least in theory, regulate supply and demand of talent, right? If we're asking nurses to pull double shifts just because there aren't enough of them, then why aren't they paid more? Well, what is kind of going wrong in Taiwan in that entire sort of economic system that is keeping wages so low that most of them want to leave?
I'm not the expert of this particular industry, but as a headhunter, I would say that maybe we will need to look into the possibility of work union of all those people working in the health industry to get more bargaining power, whether with hospital or with government. They need to have this kind of bargaining power for them to reconsider if now they really are working in a good condition.
Well, unions are music to my ears. Unionize. Our birth rates, which are pretty low in Taiwan.
Yes.
Some years the lowest in the world, in fact. Are they influencing your field, talent management or facilitating talent moving from workplace to workplace in any way?
I think this kinds of trend actually goes along with the advancement of technology. So of course, for example, like nowadays we have artificial intelligence. So maybe the requirement of manpower is like steadily declining. So we no longer need so many workers. I'm not sure if it's a good news for the general public, but it's actually a good news for a hunter like me, because I think in the future, all those professional positions will be much more specified, will be much more specialized than what they are like right now, because the number of positions in general is now declining. So for the future, all those entry level position, all those junior position will be replaced by technology. So all those positions remain will be all those positions that is highly specialized.
Well, AI was going to be my next question, but you started answering that already. Well, what happens when all those entry-level positions are gone? We have a few remaining experts who are there to make sure that the AI is doing what it's supposed to be doing. Most software engineers already say, from what I've heard, that they no longer actually do the coding. They have AI do the code, and then they just check. What happens when all those entry-level positions are gone and there's no way to train people on the job anymore? I mean, you start from an entry-level position for a reason, right? That's how you learn to do your job. That's how you get on-the-job experience. So how do you see this problem shaping up and kind of playing out over the next few years?
This is also a question I really want to find out. But like just today, I read a news article, and it's like a new plot twist I never thought about. So like last month or this month, IBM in the United States, they are considering rehiring a large number of entry-level positions. So and for them, the main reason behind this is because they want to cultivate a new generation of entry-level position that is mainly focusing on human interaction. Because most of the technological work can now be fulfilled by technologies. So they really want to refocus on how human can provide all those real world interaction to really stimulate the interaction between people.
Okay, well, developing soft skills for software engineers, tall order if you ask me, but let's see how it works out for them. Now, is any of this, what we've discussed so far, people in tech industry leaving Taiwan, nurses also not doing so great, is any of this concerning to you as a Taiwanese person?
So I would say that I'm still kind of a optimistic person. So eventually, I think we will find the way to work out. So I think whether it be the threats of AI or whether it be we hit a all-time low birth rate, I think all those problems are like a structural problem. So I think we are still like on the periods of time that we are trying to figure out what is happening right now. So I think eventually we will find the solutions, and maybe the world in the future might not be the same as it of now. But like I think right now for us, whether it's a Taiwanese or whether it be a random guy in another place, the thing we need to be prepared is only that the world is going to change very fast. And you need to keep on tracking what is going on, what is happening right now. But like I really think that finally we will come to another solution, another way of life in the future.
Before I let you go, have you ever thought about leaving Taiwan, moving elsewhere to live and work?
Yes, actually. And I would say that a larger amount of my friends are now actually living abroad.
Okay.
Yeah, so I will also say that this is an ongoing trend among my generation. I would say that from a very young age, even like from like I'm only 10 or 11 years old, I will have this kind of imagination. I'm going to live abroad. I'm going to work abroad. I think nowadays if we see all those like infrastructure or maybe the education system, I would say that Taiwan is already a developed country. But we still have that kinds of sentiment that we are fall behind all those more advanced, more developed countries, for example, like the United States, for example, like European countries. We still have this kinds of sentiment that is really rooted in us. I guess it is generated from back in the 80s, back in the 90s, I guess. There's actually a very famous saying back in the 80s and 90s. It's called like 来台大 去美国. It really means that if you want
for our viewers who don't speak Chinese, it's like come study at Taiwan University. Go work in the US.
Yeah, so it really means that if you want to get the best deal, you need to go to the top school in Taiwan, and the best you can get is, and then you move to the United States and you get to live in the United States. I think nowadays we still have this kind of sentiment that Taiwan is not good enough. If you want to really hustle, if you want to really pursue the best, you need to go out of Taiwan. So objectively, I wouldn't say this is true, but subconsciously and like deeply rooted in my mind, I still have this kind of feeling that maybe I need to go out of the country. And then I can prove myself I'm a worthy person. I'm a person good enough because I can live abroad. I can work abroad. So I think we still have this kinds of like complex like sentiment deeply rooted in us.
Well, despite that, I would like to share with your optimism that you gave us in the last answer. And let's hope that both workers here, the talent here, and companies and governments are ready for the fast-changing world that's inevitably coming our way.
Hopefully.
Thank you so much for this conversation. Zeno Fu, Senior Recruitment Specialist. And what about you? Have you ever considered moving abroad? If so, what are you after? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're down there, you should also check out our main show, Connected on Taiwan Plus. You can find us on our YouTube channel and the Taiwan Plus website. I'm Tomasz Koper. Until next time.